Okay. I'm going to say it because I always say it. Okie dokie, I think I'm live. I think I'm live. Let me just make sure I'm in the screen. Hey, Paula, how are you? How's the weather over there? The day is beautiful here after just absolute slosh and mud. Is it? Yuck. Oh, it is so beautiful here. I went out this morning. It's been down in Canberra. It's been freezing. It's always freezing down here in the winter, and it's been rainy, but I've gone out this morning and it's just warm. It was 19 degrees yesterday, and I'm just loving it. I feel better just waking up and seeing the sun. The depressing cold weather is horrible, isn't it? I'm just making sure my settings are I need some sunshine, absolutely. And I had these beautiful parrots. I went out there and these little parrots were sitting. I actually gave them some apples, just sitting on the it was unusual. A little male and female. They're beautiful. So that's a good omen. Good things are happening. I hope. That was so cute. Let's see if I can. That was amazing. Where's my little parrots? I've got a phone. He came down and ate apple. There he is. He's a little parrot. And he's a male and female. Must be their mates. Maybe they're getting ready to mate or something. That was so cute. I'll upload it on Facebook later. So, aren't they? Yeah. Pink and grazy. I've got galahs everywhere, especially feeding lupins. You know, I find that when you start to feed grain, but I don't feed grain. When I feed, I think they were there. They did definitely lifted my spirits, and they were so beautiful. And they came literally would nearly eat out of my hand. It was a bit bizarre, actually. And then I had the little male was there, a big male, and then the little the female came down, and they were beautiful. So I think it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good weekend. I'm getting I'm so sorry about the whole retraining with Thai course and that. I've just been in, honestly, I go into a little bit of tech overwhelm. I just go into tech overwhelm, but I've been in that. So I've been changing the academy before we go into the questions. I've been changing the academy. So I'll send out an email, but keep a notification because I'm going to do the retraining series with Thai as a live training series, and it's going to truthfully, the platform was getting a bit too I've got two platforms. So the Mighty Networks platform. Yeah, it is better with time, and it's interesting. And what is really good about me being so not disorganized, is it has actually worked out really perfect in time with the diploma of Equitation Science that I'm doing. So because the first series, I've got all the videos are all ready to go. I'm actually up to the in-hand unit with the diploma of Equitation Science, and it is fascinating, but it is really and I've been having to get, because having so many horses and being an adult and dogs and accidents and everything, I'm not the most I'm a diligent student, but I'm very it's so much study, but it's worked in tune so perfectly with the unit 2, which is in-hand training with my diploma, and everything that I'm learning with that is it's not that well. There's some things that I didn't know, just in terms with the subtle cues and timing and all of that. So it's going to be really good because everything that I'm learning in the diploma, I'll be able to transfer straight over into add it with the videos that I've got with Thai. And I'll also be able to add with the academy, I'm working with Nina now. We've had a bit of a setback because it's been so boggy. I haven't been able to do anything with the weather, but hopefully I've still been doing work with her. So I do, just bringing her in out of the yards and things like that is I'm always training them. even when I'm leading them back and forward to the paddock and things like that. So Lena's improved, and it'll be interesting to film her again. I'll try and get another video or two this weekend if it stays sunny like this, which is beautiful. But yeah, I think that the delay is probably going to end up a positive thing in the fact that I've got so much more information that I can put into it as I go through the diploma, and it's so much information. I've got all my textbooks here, but I'm doing the exam now. I've got an exam. I have to get everything uploaded and done by the 4th of September. I don't know if I'm going to get it all done, but I'll do my best. Otherwise, I might have to pay an extension fee or something, but really honing down on it. And the information is so valuable because I'll be able to pass it on to you guys, and also be able to, videos that I do is going to include everything that I'm learning. And it's such, the diploma, they keep updating. So Andrew McLean and everything, they keep updating they update everything. And so I've got, the books are fantastic. I mean, this is one of them, and this is, he's actually doing an updated version now. So I can just pass everything that I learn on to you guys, which is really good. It's amazing, just subtle details. Like even, I'm going to get my whip. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'll just get it. I'm just getting. So it's interesting. So I bring it in with the retraining, but one of the important things is incorporating the dressage whip into your in-hand training. And what we want to do is you do your in-hand work with pressure release with your head collar and lead rope. Then to make them, so we want to be able to incorporate the aid as well as the dressage whip. And this is to teach yield, moving the shoulders, and it makes them a lot lighter. And a lot of people have a negative association with the dressage whip, but basically it's an extension of your hand. It can be a lot more subtle, especially with off the track thoroughbreds, because they get so heavy and dull to the aids or hyperreactive. But even with you, Paula, your mare, I think she's very similar to Nina, though, in that she rushes forward. So you can teach her to stop and step back with the dressage whip. But little things like with the dressage whip, we teach the aids will be taught with little taps. So you start off lighter. So this just say using this little tap on, one is dull, one is hyperreactive. Yeah. Well, I've got, and it's all the same aids. So probably with your mare that's hyperreactive, have you used a dressage whip with her yet, Paula? She probably will be hyperreactive to the dressage whip. She may have some negative associations with it. And so habituating her to that and teaching her. Yeah. So what you need to do is, and I teach, well, Ty's so different, but I haven't done this with Nina yet. I don't think she'll be hyperactive with the whip. My little Nelly is. So I'll video that. And it's really important that your mare, Paula, is going to be habituated to the whip. So we need to teach her a different association. She has negative associations with it and fear associations. I don't know. And obviously this happens a lot with horses that have been lunged around and chased around with a dressage whip. That's not really something that happens in racing. But obviously the whip has negative associations with racehorses because it's used to motivate them and hit them. And in races, they're pulling the whip is what it's called. So, and I've done it with horses that are very scared of the whip. So for example, a horse that's scared of the whip, you just lay it on their shoulder. But then what I do is I teach them to have a positive association with them. So I'll use it and I'll go and use the whip to scratch up around their wither. So find a little scratchy spot where, and instead of having your hand up there to scratch, I use the dressage whip to scratch it. And then they associate the dressage whip with something positive. instead of something negative. And it's going to take repetition and practice. Let me do the content. I'm sure one day I'll look back on this and go, oh my God, how disorganized was I with all content? But I'll do a video up on how to habituate a horse to the dressage whip, because it's really important. And the thing is, with Off The Track Thoroughbreds, they're going to often have fearful responses to it. And what horse? Even my Nelly, she's a riding pony. And I handled her from a weanling, but because she's so sensitive and in tune, she gets very, and she's got a lot of thoroughbred blood in her. She's very, very reactive. I'm just writing new associations. There, that's my content. I have to write everything down. I'm a real diary person. So yeah, Paula, we'll look at that. And we'll do that in the academy. So what I'm going to do is they put the prices up for the platform. So I've got where the Off The Track Thoroughbred Success platform is. It's a really good online course platform. But so the Mighty Networks, I started building the Thai course in that as well. But the price went up and I was like, oh my God. So what I'm going to do is just transfer the information into a group. And we'll have a group set out particularly for this training. And then while I'm doing that, I'm transferring the information into make another online course in the Kartra platform as well. So we'll have the live training with the exact same, with all the videos, but I'll have both so that you've got the link to the course and also the whole training series in a group. So the group, I started doing that last night it's like a Facebook group, but it's just going to be for the courses. So what I'm going to do is upload a video at the beginning of the week on Monday, and then we'll do a weekly Q&A sort of training thing, maybe on the Friday, so that you can ask questions about that particular video, or Friday, Saturday, or I think probably weekends might be a bit better for us. And that's how it's going to work. Hey, Sarah Becker, how are you? Oh, wow. Wonderful. Yeah, it'll be really good, Paula. So the wait will be worth it. It's just the whole digital. It's amazing. I'm really quite. Oh, were you on delay? No, I don't know. I checked. Didn't tick delay. It should come up. Where's my settings? I better not fiddle around with two. Let me just go into the settings. I made sure that all comments were immediate, but tech, hey. Yeah, tech it's amazing what we can do online, and the training is just incredible. It's such a big learning curve for me. And one thing, like, videos take me so long just to put together, like hours. Even my little video, I don't know why. Maybe probably just learning everything, or that's the way it is. But anyway, it's good. I still really love it. And as I progress, I will get a lot more efficient and organized. And I'm sure everyone who has online courses and online trainings and that starts off feeling a tad confused like I do. But I'll look out for some notifications from me today in the academy, because I was doing some work on it last night. It is the way. Yeah. Well, I think sometimes what I need to do is just feel messy and feel disorganized and just get stuff out there anyway. And as I go along, I'll be a lot more, it'll come together, I'm sure. You should have seen me doing the putting together the Kickstart roadmap course. Oh my God, that was just, my brain exploded. Virgo season, is it? I'm just so happy about the sunny weather. But going back to this, so Paula, I don't know if you've incorporated the dressage whip, Sarah Becker, with Sailor. I love bitless too. I'm getting more into bitless as well myself. So that'll be a learning curve for me. I've got 2 bitless bridles. Oh, I just was so excited. So that's just yeah, something that will follow as well, because looking at the there's a vet. Is it a trainer? I'm pretty sure he's a vet. I've got lots of articles that I've saved that I will get some content out. But he did a lot of study on the pain rope. Yeah, with bits and that. So I'm really interested to follow that up. It's not that I'm anti-bits, but I really think that bitless is definitely something to look a lot more into. And I do think it's going to become a lot more popular. And hopefully allowed in a lot more of the, the competitive events in the future. Let me just. So, yes, the whip, the rope head. Yeah, so you start off with the head collar and lead rope. Yes, Dr. Cook. Yeah. I think it was Dr. Cook that I was reading some articles. So I do agree, Paula. I think bitless is a wonderful option. The main thing is to keep safe. And also too, as we've discussed before, some bitless bridles can be not effective. Also too, I mean, the mechanical hackamores, we don't want a lot of flexion, but the side pulls are fantastic. Exactly, Sarah Becker. I don't like to say something. Once you think about it, you can't imagine doing that to them. And as an off-the-track thoroughbred retrainer, and also someone that is a coach, I don't want to. Safety is important, and off-the-track thoroughbreds, I mean, they don't have a good stop button, and you need to be able to teach them to stop. I mean, there's nothing more terrifying than having a horse bolt on you, and I have had horses bolt on me. I mean, it is absolutely terrifying. It's terrifying. I've gone flying over fences, and it's not going to happen so much with an off-the-track thoroughbred as long as you do all the good retraining and that. But when they're in the racing environment, I think you would love her. Yeah, well, it's interesting. Let me know her name, and if she's got a page and everything, Sarah Becker, I'll have a look at her. Anything to do with a trainer that always puts the horse's priority as in the forefront? KW Equine. I think I've heard of her, actually. I'll write it down. And doesn't use any, your KW Equine. She might even be Equitation Science based, is she? But no, training contraptions like side reins and forcing horses into positions and postures, and teaching really, really clear cues is really important. But this is why the dressage whip is something that we'll incorporate. So it's just what we do is, first of all, just for an example, we're teaching the forward and stop. So forward, you have with the lead rope. So you always ask with light pressure first, because what we're teaching the horse, we want the horse to respond to light pressure, because once they then it takes away any heavy aversive pressure for them. And horses are very good at learning by association. So for example, we're teaching the forward and go light in hand, and I'll video this with Nina because I haven't introduced the dressage whip with Nina as yet. And she's a lot different than Ty. So Ty was very, very dull, whereas Nina is a lot more sensitive and hyperreactive. So we've taught forward and go, but often what you will find with off-the-track thoroughbreds is they still get very heavy, and there's only so much pressure. They're not the heavy, the lead rope pressure is not going to motivate them enough, because horses are very strong and big. So we incorporate the dressage whip. Now so they learn by association. So first of all, you need to habituate your horse to the dressage whip if they are stressed or nervous about it. So Paula with you, and I'll do a video on that. And she can have new associations with it. You don't use it ever to chase them around. So once it's repetition and she's learning that this is a positive thing, she will be okay. And you don't use it in any type of training until they've habituated to the dressage whip and are comfortable with it. Once they have, you just lay it on their body like a hand, and then you use little tap taps. So we'll teach them to go forward. So, for instance, teaching the forward aid is little tap taps on the side of their ribs. So just say this is their ribs, and we just do tap. See how light that is? That is not painful, hurting, or anything. That's just little light taps. Now, if they won't respond to that because, one, they don't understand what it means. Okay, so then when they don't respond, we just do faster taps. And this is where it's a bit tricky. You've got to be you start to learn. You want to do rhythmic little taps. So little light taps. See how I'm sort of slow there? They're not responding. I make it faster. They haven't responded. Now, an off the track thoroughbred, that's really, and then you incorporate it with your lead rein response. So you'll do little taps first and then ask them to go forward. Okay, I actually teach this separately so that they're clear on what the little taps mean. But little taps first, they're not going to respond. You go faster, 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 faster. Forward pressure with the lead rope. Now, if they don't respond, you can then go heavier. So firmer pressure. So see how that's firmer? But this is what we're trying to avoid. But horses are so good with learning by association that they will learn that this little light tap predicts faster, sort of more annoying little taps, then predicts heavier. Okay, so you see it's not punishing them, it's not whipping them. So you'll see a lot of people, you've seen this, I've seen this many times trying to get horses on the float, people whacking them. I mean, this is why they're fearful. That's horrible. But this little, it's just sort of like a little, it's so light. And you will find that your horse is so tuned in. You will find that 2 little taps, you want your horse to respond to a forward aid on the side of the rib cage by 2 little taps, very light. And it's just, and they're so sensitive to the skin, they can feel that. Then what you do is you add voice cues. So you can, whatever voice cue you want. So you will say, once again, horses link things up. They learnt by association. So a little tap, light tap will predict that they will not understand that if they don't move forward, it gets a little bit faster and a little bit more aversive. Just annoying. If someone just kept tapping you, you would just, they learn that, oh, if I take a step forward, that tap goes away. So that's how they learn, by removing pressure. And then when you've got them under pressure release, so you've got them under what's called stimulus control. So it's like being able to move them by just taking away pressure. Now, the pressure, a lot of negative associations are with pressure release. One, the negative association is if you don't take away the pressure. So if the horse stepped forward and you kept tapping, that would confuse them. Okay, and that's where stress and anxiety comes in. It happens a lot in dressage because the pressure, like nagging legs, it never goes away. It's extremely stressful for horses, extremely confusing, and that's where they start to develop conflict behavior. So it's so important to remove the pressure away as soon as they do the right response. So that's number one important step. Even our voice is pressure. So a voice aid is pressure. And then once we've taught them to off the pressure release, then it's called classical conditioning. So you will link normal, non-relevant aids. So our voice means nothing to horses really. But if we start to use the word go, and now horses don't understand that actual word, but they understand the tone of it. So use a word go that, will stop, or whoa. So they understand tone. So for instance, you want to teach your horse to move forward from a light aid. So we're shrinking the aids down to this is the goal with everything, in hand and under saddle. We're shrinking the aids down to the minutest, subtlest aids that is not aversive to horses. And that's our goal. So then once we've taught them that little taps, once you don't always have to carry a dressage whip around. So what happens is you are shrinking your light lead rein. So your light lead rein response first. If they don't respond, then instead of using firmer pressure, you now give them little side taps. Okay, so we've removed the firmer lead rein pressure by teaching them to go forward by little side taps. And then what happens when you're leading them around, and you'll see in the last videos, I did a last before Ty went home, just how fluid he is. He's just forward and back and everything. And it wasn't me using any I have the dressage whip with me. He was very dull to the eyes. It was like moving a freight train. But they'll learn to respond just so subtly to your lead rein. And then you've incorporated the go aid. So let's go for a step. So now we're going to add go, our voice aid, to the light lead rein response and our dressage whip. So you always want to put the new aid first before in front of what they've already learned. So our step would be, say, go, light lead rein response, they haven't responded, little taps on the side. So what happens is your horse, my dogs, don't be mean, Bailey. Your horse will learn to, when they hear the word go, they will associate that with the little tap, light, and they learn then to go forward from your voice aid go. So that's how training works, whether it's with any animal. But with elephants, dolphins and all of that, they train by clicker training, positive reinforcement, because you can't do pressure release, because I did read something. There is actually, you still have an amount of pressure. It was interesting, but I won't go into that because that's confusing. But I hope this makes sense. Does this make sense? Sarah Becker, with your new trainer, Kristen Whitehouse, just see does she incorporate this pressure release. Very clear. So I just wanted to give you, this is what we're aiming at, because sometimes it's confusing, and I know it looks, so I know all the in-hand work, it just seems such a long journey to get to the under saddle work and that, but it's so important, because these we're basically breaking up every single response. We need to teach the horse every separate response first in hand, and then that will transfer to under saddle, and then you shrink them down to the lightest of aids, and then you put everything together, and that's how your beautiful classical dressage, I'm not going to say modern day dressage because there's no light aids there. From what I saw, she uses the rope and the pressure off the rope halter. Yes, that's where you start with. Now, I always start with the head collar and rope first. So you always start, Sarah Becker, with the head collar and lead rope, and you're teaching them to go forward with that first, and then you incorporate the dressage whip. I'm so glad, Paula. Once I get what I'm going to do, send me some pics. Cool, Sarah Becker, send me some pics. But there is, and it's just reinforcing, and that's why it's, as I said, I think that sometimes things happen for a reason, and timing is really important, because what I'm learning in this particular unit in my diploma is just so relevant and important to where I am at with the retraining series with Ty. So as long and as confusing and as all over the place it is, I think it will just come together really well. So this is, and the more I break it up into my head, the more that I'm going to be able to transfer it onto you guys in a more simple and clear concept, because it can get very confusing. Still to this day, I spent a year down with Andrew McLean in 2003. Cool, Sarah Becker. I'll have a look. I'll have a look when I finish the live today, and have a look. Go on to Messenger and check out your message, the videos or the photos. So video everything that she does. If you want to video it, I love video. And what I'm going to do is, I think, do a lot more video and just pop little things up, because I'm much better at just chatting in video than writing posts. I think I've got so much information to put together, and if I can do it in video, then I can just get a lot more out there. But that's the aim with what the retraining process is, and equitation science training, and it's called learning theory. So learning theory is how horses learn, and the way that they process it in their brain. So horses cannot they don't have the prefrontal cortex, so they can't think and plan and decipher, oh, well, she hasn't removed the pressure away, but I know what she's asking. She's just not getting her timing right. They have no ability to be able to do that. So it's really important to learn to be so clear with your aids and be so precise. And it's not about bashing yourself up, because it's all a learning curve. But once you understand what you're trying to achieve, is that as soon as the horse does one right step forward, you release the pressure. And it's called I've got, I don't know if you've watched them in the retraining series with Ty. I think I've got 2 videos up on the nature of horses, because it's really important to understand the horse's nature, because this is why we learn to train them in this particular way, because we can't sit them down in a classroom and just relay information. We need to understand how they learn. And then the second video is how they process information. So this is important to know. Now, the third video that is, what is it? I think we need to go in, before I actually get the videos of me working with Ty, I need to teach you what is called the shaping scale. And this is where it comes to, basically, it's moving up from your basic attempt to them learning to take one little step forward from this, and then we're shaping it to really light responses where your horses like fluid. But that takes ages to achieve, particularly with Off The Track Thoroughbreds, because they've habituated to so much pressure, and they're also very confused. They've had a lot of conflict. They've had a lot of confusing stimuli that's never removed. For example, the bit pressure, the way that we ride them in racing. There's so much bit pressure. It's interesting. I took, and I was working with Off The Track Thoroughbreds. I was working with Ty, actually, I think, but recovering from my injury, many injuries that I've had, I went back to track work after a year and a year and a half off, with my last injury, and hopping onto a thoroughbred, I really realized, just how much weight that you have in front, and how heavy and how much bit pressure you need to be able to teach them to be light, and also to how they work, and there's just so much pressure that you need. I'm like, wow, it just reminds me of how firm you have to be with bit pressure and with the pressure to slow them down, and how much they habituate to. And then that's got a lot of association with pain, and not only that, they'll get very heavy. Racehorses will get very heavy in the bridle, because they've got pain in over their back, or in their, around their sacroiliac area, because it's so hard on them, racing so hard on them. So if they're not working properly, they don't want to use their hind end. So they're leaning on the front, because they're trying to avoid putting weight on their, on their hind legs. And that's how I've always, with thoroughbreds that I've ridden in track work, I'll come back and I'll go, he doesn't want to carry himself. And a little horse, little Harry, I knew there was something wrong, because he was just so heavy in the bridle, and he was disuniting. So yeah, when they don't want to carry, when you start to work with them, and Ty showed me this quite often, and I've got this all on video, I would be riding him, because he had a lot of issues very intensive race career, and I hop on him and I'm like, he doesn't want to use his hind end. I can feel he's uncomfortable. And I've got it all on video. I speak about this in the video that he's showing signs with his mouth, and I knew that he was sore behind. So lots of info there, lots of info to get out to you guys, but I don't even know how I got onto that. I lost track. I don't know. Anyway, the shaping scale. So we want it. So we're working up through the shaping scale. So that's the whole goal of it, to teach them to respond to. You can teach your horse. That's where you can teach them to respond to your body language. Now, body language is very confusing for horses, because that's why you need to be very clear in your body language. And a lot of trainers will go. A lot of anti-negative reinforcement. So this type of training is called negative reinforcement. It's not bad. Negative is just removing something. So it's in the mathematical sense of taking away, your aid. So as soon as they do the right response, you remove that aid. So that's why it's called negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is adding something positive when they do the right thing. So your horse has, it's a lot harder to achieve with training horses, and horses really, they do need, for efficient training, they do need to be trained with negative reinforcement first, and then you can include your positive reinforcement. But horses, riding is dangerous. Now, to teach a horse just to respond to positive reinforcement, so I'm waiting for them to take a step forward, and then you can have a clicker and reward it, and then give them a treat or something. So they learn that if they take a step forward, they get a treat. The problem is you have to shrink that down. You can't, it's impossible to be able to give the horse a treat every time they take a step forward. And then you start to lengthen the times that you give them the positive reinforcement, and that can be a little bit stressful for horses because they're always looking for that treat. I won't go too much into it because it gets a bit confusing, but basically you can add your positive reinforcement training, but you want to first of all train the basic responses with negative reinforcement, shrinking them down to really light pressure, and then teaching them. So your horse, you could just say a go aid, with all the liberty work, you could put your hand up and point this way, move your hand forward. They understand that cue for your hand moving forward is associated with the go aid. So I hope that makes sense, that you can shrink everything down to the subtlest of responses, and horses are so good at associative learning that they will learn. They learn, so for instance, associative learning, they know when feed time is as soon as they see you. My horses know the time of day that they come in. Horses, they are waiting at the gate for me when, they know their routine and they're waiting. They know that when they see my car, that if I'm coming in, that they come in the yards and get their feed. So horses will see the subtlest of things. They'll know that, for instance, with racehorses, they'll know the morning that maybe they don't get hay. Okay, because usually with racing, they will tongue tied. Horses won't get hay the morning they're racing with a lot of trainers. So a horse will know, I haven't got hay this morning or the night before. They will already associate themselves not getting hay with race day. So I hope that makes sense. And my two, yes, they are polar opposites, Paula. So, that's really, one reads my every step, the other bombards my space. Yeah. So the bombarding space is just not being clear in the basic responses, not being understanding, controlling their legs, teaching them to stop. I've got some really good, the videos where I'm teaching Ty to start. It's called Park in Equitation Science. Where we teach them to park, and then you can step back and walk all around them and they don't move. So I did that really well with Ty, and that's what you need to teach, Paula, with your horse that bombards your space. He's just showing you with bombarding your space that he's not clear in his stop and go. And when horses understand what you're asking of them, and they understand what is expected of them, and they understand they can predict what's happening, it creates a lot of calmness. They do it within themselves in their own herd. So they know to stay away or to stand. You know, I've noticed with my herd that one horse will go and share a hay net with the other. Some are okay. Others they'll put their ears back and say, go away, or just stay there at that space. And they understand that. So as long as a horse understands what you are asking of them, they are happy and they're relaxed. They're a herd animal. They're used to following. They're used to guidance. They're used to. They'll follow each other. They'll look for guidance. So horses will look for guidance. So it's not as if we're controlling them. Because I also sometimes, I mean, in a way, I read something interesting. You know, we are. It's not about dominating a horse and controlling them. It's more about developing a relationship with them and a very clear language so that we can work together in a partnership. We've decided to own horses. We've decided to bring them in our lives. So we need to make our training very, very comfortable, clear, and positive for the horse. And then they're happy with that. So this is training animals. If we're going to train animals, we need to make it so that it's pleasurable for the horse. And if the horse is clear and happy in what they're doing and they understand what is expected of them, they're happy. I think, you know, I mean, I've got some wonderful, like I've even a little mare that I haven't officially brought her in with retraining, but Bindi, she loves me, absolutely loves me. And she had a terrible time in racing and I couldn't catch her, couldn't get a head collar on her, ran away, and she was so fearful. And she's just bonded with me. She just loves me. She's just bonded with me just by me doing these basic things. I had to bring her in because she had a nasty injury. I hadn't retrained her. Oh, I still haven't actually. Well, I'll video her as well. So you'll get to see that in the future. But yeah, I just feel like as we develop a relationship with our horses through the training, they really enjoy it, and they are social animals. They develop relationships between each other, and I think they can really thrive on the human horse, you know, human relationship if we do it in the right way and incorporate really pleasurable things for them, like tactile interactions, teach them to enjoy touch, and making sure that their basic needs, you know, what they need. So for high forage, good diet, and all of that is provided. So anyway, yeah, I don't know how I got into all of that, but that's what lives are for, chatting. Now, what I want, so we're going to talk about your hay nets, Paula, because I had exactly the same problem with, I have had, and I did have exactly the same problem with my horses. Not some of my, particularly thoroughbreds, aren't used to eating out of the slow feeder hay nets. And Mac, he hated them. I'm just going to take a sip of coffee here because I'm getting a bit of a dry mouth. So I got Mac. So I actually have, you've been using the 6 centimeter holes with your slow feeder hay nets, have you, Paula? So I haven't ever used the 6 centimeter holes. I actually have always started off with the 4 centimeters holes. So yeah, so my guys have sort of been thrown into it. But it's funny, most of them, I've actually found that most of them have adapted to the 4 centimeter holes really well. But Mac, there was a couple that didn't. So Mac really didn't like it. So I think if your mare, so one of them, it's only the mare, is this the one that's a bit hyperreactive that is struggling with the 4 centimeter holes? Because you do want to slow down the eating, because that's the whole purpose of the slow feeder hay nets. If she's going through so much hay, the 4 centimeter hole is going to be much better for, and you know, it'll slow her down, but doesn't like the 4. Oh, so they both don't like the 4 centimeter holes. So what hay are you feeding in your 4 centimeter holes? So Max, so what I did, and the suggestion that you made was having the 6 centimeter there, and then if they run out, have the 4 centimeter, so that they aren't. So first of all, they have access to hay. They can eat the hay they want normally out of your 6 centimeter holes, And then gradually, this is what I would do. And this is what I did with Max. So I didn't have 6 cinema holes, but I just had a hay bag out there. And let him eat out of the hay bag. And then when he ran out of that, he started eating out of the 4 centimeter hole. And now he's fantastic. He's perfect. But I made sure that he had hay to eat. And then he gradually started learning how to eat. Hi, Kurt. How are you? Hello. Thank you for joining us. Just chatting here about hay nets. So if you have a question, just pop it in the comments, and I'm happy to answer it if I can for you. But Paula, talking about the hay nets, I'd keep the 6 centimeter in there, and just catching up. I think the hay nets are. Oh, sorry, not the hay nets. If there's a delay in responding, of course they're coming through. So yeah, if you have a question, just pop it in the comments, and I'll answer it for you. But yeah, Paula, so keep the 6 centimeter in there, and gradually, introduce them to the 4 centimeter by having both in there. What I noticed now, isn't it interesting? I've even got 3 centimeter holes. I could not believe that Sammy and Tommy, so Tommy that's got the big head, and Sammy could actually eat out of the 3 centimeter holes, but that is with the beautiful soft Manuka haylage. And Tommy hasn't even got front teeth, his top front teeth. So I was amazed by that. He's been eating out of hay nets for years. So is Sammy, so there's not a problem with that. But I was quite surprised he could eat out of the 3 centimeter holes. But Paula, if you even put, yes, the oaten hay, well, I feed Rhodes hay. Now, oaten hay is even more, it's generally it's still thicker than your Rhodes hay. So that's difficult to eat out of the 4 centimeter holes. Now, oaten's probably a little bit, did we talk about the oaten being a bit too sugary? Can you get Rhodes there? I think the oaten out of the 4 centimeter hole is definitely a lot more difficult. If you can source, maybe even try loosen hay with the 4 centimeter holes, because the more palatable the hay, the more motivated they are to get it out. And also to, I know, Kurt, yeah, I've got five horses with big head in my herd. Now, this has been such a big learning curve. It's been horrible. And that's just another topic in itself. I wanted to talk about calcium because why they got big head is very unusual. I don't graze on oxalate pasture. So that's a story in itself. It was not, so I don't have any grass that would potentially, you would think, restrict calcium absorption in the horses, but it has, and that's a story in itself. I want to talk a lot about that. I'll do some videos up on that. But going back to Paula, I would try. Yeah, so Paula, the Rhodes hay is, I'm lucky I can get it, which is really good. Is it really? So I do feed loose in the summer, so 4 centimeter would work then, I think. Absolutely. So what I would do is keep your oaten hay in your 6 centimeter hole, because it's going to be too hard for them to eat it out of the 4 centimeter hole unless they're really accustomed. But what you might find, I don't know, I haven't tried oaten hay in 4 centimeter hole because I don't feed it, so it might be too fibrous for the 4 centimeter holes. But your loosen will definitely be okay. So what you could do is put the loosen in the 4 centimeter hole and keep your oaten in the 6 centimeter hole. I don't know, do you, I don't think you'd be able to get it up over in Western Australia, but I feed something called Manuka haylage. So I'm starting to feed the haylage, which is beautiful. Oh, thanks so much, Kurt, for subscribing to my channel. Thank you. I've got a lot of videos coming up. I'm sort of new to the whole content uploading and that. So as I get more organized with content, I'll get a heap of videos coming up. It's me being a little bit overwhelmed and disorganized with getting things together, but yeah. And if you have anything you want me to do some videos on, pop it in the comments, because I'll do a video. Yeah, if Kurt, also too, I've got a Facebook group. I should have the link in my videos. Pop in the Facebook group as well, because I upload everything in the Facebook group. And anything you want me to do a video on, let me know in the comments. I always check my comments on YouTube as well as in the Facebook group, and I'll put something together for you. Let me just have a... So in this video, if you've just hopped on, so Kurt, I was talking about training and the training shaping scale. Oh, you got a new puppy. Oh, beautiful. I got a new puppy as well. I've got lots of puppies here. I've had a bit of a nightmare, actually. So Paula, let me know how you go with the loosen chaff. Loosen hay, I should say. But if you can get something more palatable than the oat and hay, I think she'll probably find that the 4 centimeter will be fine. And once she gets comfortable eating in the 4 centimeter hole, you'll I think she'll I don't know. It says on, if you go to the Gutbuster website, she does actually say that most horses will adapt to eating out of the 4 centimeter hole with pretty much any hay. So maybe it's just a matter of, did you go straight from 6 centimeter to 4 centimeter with the oat and hay? So I think that's probably the problem. The Rhodes hay is definitely finer than the oat and hay, and I've never fed oat and hay in a slow feed. Have I? Yeah, I probably have. It's interesting. So as I said with Tommy, so it also depends on the palatability of the hay. Yeah, I try loosen. Get some loosen in the 4 centimeter hole and see how they go. I think you'll find it's definitely much easier, and because it's got the leaf on it, the leaf is she'll be able to get the leaf out much more efficiently. Tommy, I couldn't believe. So would you believe I've got the 3 centimeter holes now. I've bought 3 centimeter holes for them for their haylage. I've only tried Tommy and Sam with it. And I've only tried the 3 centimeter holes with the haylage. So I'll do a video on, I did a video. Oh, I haven't uploaded it actually. I'll upload it. I sent it through to Nikki with Gutsbuster and showed her, because she's quite surprised that Tommy with no front teeth could eat the haylage out of the 3 centimeter holes. And she's even got 2 centimeter holes. So that's only for horses like ponies that are really sort of gutsy, and also the softer the forage, the easier it is they're going to be able to get it out of the hay net as well. So give that a go, Paula, with the loosen, and let me know how you go. Okay, so if you've got any yeah, I love my Gutsbuster hay nets. I really do. I've got so many of them. I've got a ridiculous amount. I've got new ones actually. So I got rid of all my old ones and put the new ones out. So you've got the knotless are beautiful. Paula, have you got the knotless that I had the original knotless that aren't as soft. And they've got the white cord through it, so it's cotton. So now I've got the knotless. It's really soft. And she's got the more thicker. I've got purple cord, and they're so soft. They're so easy to fill up as well. And they're so, I've got the really soft ones. So I bought 19 of them. No, Kurt, that's fine. You can pop in. I'm so glad that you can get a pony if you take care of the puppy. Well done. So make sure you take care of that puppy. But keep on the YouTube channel so you can learn everything. So you're ready for when you get your pony. You've got somewhere to reach out to for help. So any questions? So what I'm going to talk, so I wanted to, Sarah Becker, let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, that's right. So Sarah Becker, I'll have a look at those. Did it come through? My dogs are going to bark here. Yes, it's come through. I'll have a look at those later, Sarah Becker. Don't bark, Bailey. But the whole calcium thing. So, wow, calcium. So I want to talk about, so this is, so Paula, this will be interesting for you as well, because what's been a big learning curve for me. Sorry, I'm playing with the dressage whip now. I got to practice getting my, yeah, Kurt, tape it when you get the pony. That'd be good. Love to see it. So, got to practice nice rhythmic taps. So that's something we'll learn when I get to the training with that. But with sorry, I hit my dog. With the whole calcium thing with my horses. So it was interesting. It's such a minefield of why my horses are calcium deficient. But what I looked at, so it's interesting. We have to have the calcium. So this is another thing that I learned. But the calcium to phosphorus ratio with horses is really important. And I've been doing so much research on it. I've been thinking with off the track, well, thoroughbred racehorses in particular, because we get a lot of breakdowns in racing. A lot of horses break down, broken legs, things like that. I think racehorses are actually calcium deficient. But what we want to, and I've got people, some friends, actually, they're lovely, but people that still feed you'll still feed your breeder, your feeds that have your grain feeds or your grain, like even rice bran. So what this does, rice bran is hugely high in phosphorus. So what happens with our, and I won't talk too much about this because I could go on forever, but my horses have been severely calcium deficient, and for reasons other than grazing on oxalate pastures. Kurt, no, I don't sell horses at my place. I used to, but they're all part of my herd now. They stay with me. Every horse that I take on, they stay with me. And I take on clients' horses for retraining. So a horse that, yeah, people will, people can send me horses to retrain for them. So with so why my horses, so I want to talk about why my horses ended up calcium deficient and grazing on pastures that I had. So it's been such a big learning curve, and I'm going to do up some content on it, but we want to make sure that we are feeding adequate calcium and phosphorus for our horses. So it's something I never thought of because I mean, it's all learning, isn't it? But I mean, you know that you're feeding your lucerne and your lucerne chaff, and that is a good calcium. But this is why Feed XL can come in really good, the Feed XL calculator, because we can have a look at how much calcium is in our horses' diets. But basically, a horse needs generally a 500 kilo horse needs about 20 grams of calcium in their diet. They need to be able to absorb 20 grams of calcium. So we want to look at what we're feeding our horses. If we're feeding grain feeds, if we're feeding rice bran, so grain, oat and hay, Paula, a lot higher in phosphorus, no calcium. And so you want to make sure if your diet is higher in phosphorus than calcium, it's going to be a problem. So our calcium, it's very complicated, but we look at our horse's diet. So the calcium to phosphorus ratio needs to be absolutely over 1 part calcium to 1 part phosphorus. You want it to be higher than that. So ideally, you want 2 parts calcium to 1 part phosphorus. And I think it's important for everyone to have a look at their horse's diet and making sure that the calcium to phosphorus ratio is balanced. My horses were getting quite, I've always fed Lucin. They get Fiber Protect or Lucin. Before they were getting Lucin Chaff, but they get Fiber Protect, and I've always fed a very good amount of Lucin hay. So that in itself was unusual why they were depleted in calcium. If you feed grains, so all your grains are going to be higher in phosphorus than they're going to be in calcium. If you feed bran, rice bran, and I know that all your wheat middlings, all of that, we've gone down that path of the wheat byproducts, all going to be very high in phosphorus. And if your phosphorus level in your horse's diet is higher than the calcium level, excess phosphorus is going to block calcium absorption. It's really quite complex. So I think a number one for everybody is important to have a look at the calcium to phosphorus ratio in your horse's diet. And I'm going to we might talk about that in next week's Q&A, but I'm going to do some content up on that. And we want to make sure that the phosphorus is not higher than calcium, firstly, before anything. And then we can look and see, is our horse getting the adequate levels of calcium to phosphorus? So it's interesting. Where did I make it up? Calcium, 99% of the calcium in a horse's body is in their bones. So isn't that amazing? Calcium absolutely is necessary for the functioning of the heart and for everything in horses and humans. So if the body doesn't, we won't be alive and we don't function if we don't have calcium. Including humans. Now, what happens is if the horse is deficient in calcium, they will take it from the bones. And that's what's happened to my horses. They will take the calcium from the bones to keep the system going, the heart, muscles going. And calcium is needed for muscle function as well. And because they are taking the calcium from the bones, what happens is it is replaced with this soft, fibrous type of stuff. And that's why big head happens. Big head is where the bone has been replaced by sort of fibrous type of stuff. It's horrible. It's terrible. It's been really, really disheartening. And then obviously if the bone is being, and also bone disease, your osteoarthritis, your osteoporosis, things like that. The thing is, it can be reversed. I don't know if the swelling will ever go down. Hopefully it will. I'm on a mission to get the swelling down off Tommy's face. Just pop in. No, I don't know Reynolds Riding Academy, but I'm in Australia, so I'm not sure where you are. Let me know where you are. So I'm on a big thing about, I've always loved equine nutrition, but I'm on a big thing about the calcium levels because this has been such a big learning curve for me. We need to make sure that, one, that our diet is not higher in phosphorus than calcium because that's going to inhibit calcium absorption. Two, we need to make sure we're not grazing on any grasses. That is going to restrict calcium levels. Now, what's happened with me is, and I shared some of this from Calm Healthy Horses, is the pastures that have been fertilized with urea, nitrates, superphosphates make the pasture high and the grass high in nitrates and high in phosphorus. Excess nitrates, excess phosphorus block calcium absorption. So no matter what calcium that you're giving, you're going to, it's not going to be able to be absorbed. So it's a bit disastrous all around, and that's what's happened with my horses. The pasture is ex-cattle, and I do think I've got some problematic grasses in my paddock as well, but I think the main thing has been from the soil being fertilized from superphosphates and nitrates. So it's been a big learning curve. And also, too, even if you're not grazing on pasture that is problematic, if you've got a diet that is not sufficient in calcium, so if your diet is higher in phosphorus than it is in calcium, that's going to cause problems with calcium absorption as well. So yeah, let's talk more on that because I'm really on there's a lot about it, and I actually think racehorses have a deficiency in calcium in their bodies and in their diet, and hence the reason for a lot of breakdowns in racing, horses breaking legs and also not performing correctly. That's not something that I can do, but it's interesting when we get an off the track thoroughbred, knowing what they're on. So the high grain, and I've worked for some trainers, like I only realized last night actually, rice bran is obviously used in some feeds, and it's quite common to get weight on because it's got your rice bran oils in it, and it's high fat, so it's going to put a lot of weight on. And I work for a trainer that every horse got half a dipper of rice bran in their meal with their grain, their big grain feed. And a racehorse generally they only get lucerne hay in these stables. Some trainers will give ad lib hay, but they've only got a biscuit of lucerne hay. I've worked in stables where quite often the horse won't even eat their lucerne hay. They leave it over. So they might get a little bit of lucerne in their diet, but a lot of it is nowadays is your prepackaged feeds. And yes, they are going to have higher levels of calcium. They're going to be fortified feeds, so they're going to have higher levels of calcium to phosphorus. But if you're feeding other feeds that still are making the phosphorus level in your horse's diet higher than the calcium, it's going to stop any calcium from being absorbed. So anyway, we've got something to look at. So let me know. Do you want me to talk more about the calcium levels and all of that? Let me know. I'm sure you do, but because it's all important and all interesting. So yeah, okay, Paula, that'd be really good. We'll talk about that in next live. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to chat more about it. I'm going to do there's just so much information. I go into a bit of brain overwhelm, but is it behind here? I'll get on my laptop. Where's my little cursor? And we also need, this is something for feed. This is why I really love Feed XL as well. And not only, and Calm Healthy Horses. It's a bit of a mind field actually, because you look at, I never realized any of this. I've seen calcium to phosphorus levels, but because I fed a really good, I was onto Belinda's amazing minerals, and I was feeding really good minerals and vitamins and that, so such a big learning curve that my horses. And it's interesting, Tiger, now he's going to be a massive rehab. So Tiger came to me from a client and a lovely friend, Sharon, who he came out of racing. Exactly, Paula, the magnesium. That's why I feed. It is because magnesium will create more calcium absorption. And I was thinking, it is. And then and it's just such a minefield. But so that's why at the moment I'm feeding Cal Extra. Conky's Own have been really wonderful. It is brain fog. It is so much information, but like the training side of it, repetition and breaking it down. But I'm feeding Conky's Own Cell Vital, so they were really, really wonderful and helpful to me with the whole thing. Once I found out what was happening. So initially, when I was speaking to Nerida Richards, Belinda from Amazing Minerals, everyone's been wonderful. But because I haven't been on oxalate pastures, calcium absorption issues weren't looked at. So I was thinking more that it was mycotoxins. So the magnesium came into that. But what I was doing is I was adding, before I got on the Cal Extra, I was adding calcium carbonate with magnesium oxide. It's not very palatable. Yes, Kurt. Hi, Kurt. Thank you. I'm so glad you're enjoying the live. I do a live every week. I have had a bit of an issue with last week I've been a bit all over the place with what days because of my little doggy had an accident and all of that. But I do a live every week. I'm going to pick a day. I might even do every Saturday morning. But if you pop in the group, I put a notice up in the group as well of when the weekly live is going to be on. But I definitely do a weekly Q&A on YouTube. So keep an eye out for that. And I'll work out a day and make a note of it. I think I've got to balance it between what we're going to be doing in the group, in the academy, and what we're going to be doing. But I think I'll make Saturday morning as one of our regular Q&As. I think weekends quite work well for most people as well. So going back to you, Paula, yeah, the magnesium, but I found that the calcium carbonate and the magnesium, one, it wasn't working. Two, it was completely unpalatable. Like, didn't like it. So the problem, why it's so confusing, is everything works in synergy. So you've also need vitamin, is it vitamin D or vitamin E for calcium absorption? But I know that the main thing at the moment to look at is the calcium phosphorus. I know that's really important. Let me have a look here. Cal Extra. So with the Cal Extra, one, they love it. They love the taste of it. And two, he's got the perfect balance of it. So he's got your magnesium in there. You've got your, is it vitamin D? So let me have a look here. I've got my little, oh, this is problems. Okay, let's have a look. Cal Extra. I like the Conky's Own products. One, they're economical for someone who's got 150,000 horses. So bone decalcification, including fractures. And this is why I'm thinking racehorses' diets are lacking in, have calcium issues because of the fractures that we get. Supportive calcium supplement for fractures, pedal osteocytis or sesamoiditis. So it's got high potency bone minerals in an optimum balanced ratio of calcium to phosphorus. So I think removing the horse off pasture so that I don't have issues. But yeah, the calcium phosphorus ratio is balanced in the Cal Extra, and also too, I think he's got the vitamin D. I had a little thing. I've got forms everywhere, but that's my little Conky's Own thing. But here we go, Paula. Let's just, so I've got a little article here, and this is what they said. Always remember calcium and phosphorus. Always remember that nature, nothing acts in isolation. And it's particularly important with calcium and phosphorus metabolism because the skeletal system is made up mostly of is made up of calcium and phosphorus. So it's so important to have these balanced. So here we go. Bone structure is 35% calcium and 17% phosphorus. And in addition, calcium is essential for normal muscle contraction, where it is needed to activate potassium ion channels. So this is why calcium is important for the muscle contraction, and the magnesium is important for muscle relaxation. And then this gets a bit confused. So I'll look at this. I'll do a live, but what we need to look at as well is generally assume that approximately 50% of dietary calcium is absorbed. So any dietary calcium that we're putting in, about 50% of it is absorbed. So a horse needs 20 grams of calcium a day. Now I just need to look at whether that is 20 grams absorbed, but I'll look more into it. But I think the first step is to look at, is your horse got a correct calcium to phosphorus ratio? If you're, so oat and hay, so most of the grasses contain low to moderate levels of minerals, while cereal grains are low in calcium and high in phosphorus. So Paula, your your oat and hay is going to be high in phosphorus, so it might be worth you having a look at your calcium to phosphorus levels. If you're not in Feed Excel, I can put it in for you. So let me know. Just let me know your diet and we can have a look at it. I know everything is worrying if you're overdoing it. Hey, I think keeping it simple, I think the first step is just to make sure you're getting adequate calcium in the diet and then it's not imbalanced. See, even lupins are higher in phosphorus and lower in calcium. I've got a chart. I've saved a heap of information. That's why I think this topic in itself is really needs content, like a video and content of its own. So I'll put something together and I'll put that up on YouTube as well. I'll do a video on it and we can go through all the levels, because lupins are higher in calcium, phosphorus. Leucin's high, really good calcium supplement. Anything like your soybean meal, basically it's leucin. Leucin is it? I think it's only leucin that's got your good calcium levels. Everything else is higher in phosphorus. So you're wanting to get good leucin or a calcium supplement. But it gets overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. I've seriously been in a minefield. Calcium levels in the body are regulated by vitamin D. And this is why when there's low levels of calcium, the body, it takes it out of the bones, because otherwise the body can't function without it. And that's what big head is. I've got a friend, I've got to get back to her actually. She's got a little pony. After I did my video, because you see lumps on horses' heads, and her vet said her little pony, she's not grazing oxalate pastures. Her little ponies, one of her horses has got a lump on his head. Her vet said nothing to worry about. And people around her are saying, well, you've got, we're not grazing oxalate pastures out here, so big head's not around here. But it's not. It can happen. It's not only if you're grazing on oxalate pastures. If your diet is higher in phosphorus, and they used to many, many years ago, remember, and I did this to my horses when I got them, working in riding schools, they called it big head was called the bran disease, because bran is wheat and it's really high in phosphorus. So back then, horses were getting big head, and it wasn't from grazing from oxalate pastures. It's feeding bran and grain feeds that are higher in phosphorus. So I've got to follow her up, because bones appearing on the horse's face, any sort of raised bones, is a sign of something going wrong, and calcium. And it was interesting. My horses literally came up with bones on their face overnight. Last autumn or spring it was. I mean, I can't believe that. Yeah, bran. If you call it, if you Google it, bran. Your working horses and that, once they started feeding bran, as the grain, I mean, it goes back in history, as I think the byproducts of grain and everything started to become a lot bigger and go into horses' diet. I remember way back when I was working in riding schools back in 1999 and the year 2000 and that, we used to make up big warm bran mashes for our horses, thinking it was really good for them. And it was absolutely not. My horse had, and Pollard, my Off The Track Thoroughbred, I gave him Pollard and he broke out in hives. But big on Pollard. These cheap pony pellets, who was it recently was on pony, like these horse pellets. They're all packed with fillers, Pollard and bran. I mean, it's so devastating, and it's going to increase the bran levels. But not only your rice bran, which has really been made to be a good feed and fattening and all of that, rice bran is even higher in phosphorus than wheat bran. So I can't remember the brand. I was feeding rice bran pellets for ages. I know trainers. Rice bran's really high in phosphorus. And if you feed rice bran, your diet is going to be higher in phosphorus than calcium. It's a minefield. I didn't know that. Did not know that at all. So it's so important to look at the ingredients of your prepackaged feeds. Sorry, Sarah Becker, I hope you're still there. Just something, I'm sure this is important for you as well. But it's important that we need to look at this. And I think a lot of off-the-track thoroughbreds are going to be definitely may have the potential to be calcium deficient. And it's not going to harm. So for me, for instance, you can go up to, I looked at the calcium phosphorus ratio, and you can go up to 3 parts calcium, 4 parts calcium, 5 parts calcium to 1 part phosphorus with no problems. My horses honor a huge amount of calcium, but they need phosphorus as well. So I think step 1 is to first look at the calcium to phosphorus levels in the horse's diet, and then we can go to yes, absolutely, soldier on without symptoms. Well, I think they can soldier on for a long time without symptoms, Paula. And you know, it was interesting. I started talking about Tiger. So a client, client who now is a friend. So Tiger came off the track, and he was very quiet. Yeah, and that was the problem with me, because I didn't see the symptoms. And by the time they start getting big head, any bones, the body is being 30%. Skeletal system has been depleted by calcium by 30%. So that's how long they can soldier on without actually getting the physical signs of big head. It's quite scary, and I feel horrified about it. I've been really overwhelmed about it. But like everything, you know, yeah, well, it's interesting. It does. I think it does take a lot in coming back from, and it's going to be a big, I mean, following my journey is going to be very educational in itself. But they can come back from it. And they do come back from it. Apparently they do come back from it. It takes about a year. For say someone like Tommy. Now I think Tommy, my other horses, like ones that I haven't had as long, are nowhere near as bad because they haven't been deficient. But I look back now on Tommy's history, and I can see signs that were showing, and Tiger, for instance, showing years ago. Even signs from, your mycotoxin symptoms like your head flicking and things like that is also a sign of of pasture issues. I mean, that's, I was up till 12 o'clock last night reading it. I just stay up, and that's why I get behind in my diploma because I'm just reading so much of other stuff. But I mean, this is important, but they can come back from it. They can rehabilitate back from it. So I'm so full on about seeing my horses and watching them thrive. I can see an improvement in Tommy already. If not always does the swelling go down, but they, particularly with Tommy, that maybe has been there. But Tiger, I have got a video somewhere of Tiger. So Tiger came from Sharon. Now, before he came to me, and she was on an adjustment place, not great pasture, but it was down here, cool season pasture. She was on Lucin. I'm trying to remember. With my clients, I often recommend not feeding grain. So I think he was on lupins and maybe some chaff, and he was on Cell Provide, but he has started having issues. He was very, very problematic on the race course. Hence the reason I followed up his racing career, because it was like, right, he was fine, but he was one a bit similar to your man that you couldn't put your leg on him. He was very hyper-reactive. And when I got on him, took him down to the jump arena and nearly put me through a barbed wire fence. Absolutely. Run backwards, rear explode, try and take off. So a lot of problems with Tiger. I ended up finding a standee for Sharon and taking on Tiger myself. He's got beautiful movement. He's just turned 11. He's the one that fractured his skull. But when Sharon had him, he started showing signs of issues with his stifle in his near hind. Very stiff. When the farrier would do him, he said he just feels really stiff in that near hind. Vet couldn't really find anything. Now, with big head, not only does the body take calcium out of the skull, the first place it takes it out of is around the pelvic, hind end area, and also from the facial features. So my horses are not only going to be depleted They're calcium. That's why you don't want to ride them when they're calcium, when they've got big heads. So the mineralizations that would have also been taken out of their pelvic area. And so I'm thinking, so Tiger started showing issues, lameness issues back when Sharon had him. He also had mycotoxin. Yes, weakness in the hind end. Yes. I've got to go too, Paula. I've got to go too. But weakness in the hind end, shortness of strides. So we'll talk about that in the next live. Yes. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in our next live, and I'll also follow it up with some content. So I've got to go too. It's 10:30, and I've been talking for an hour and a half. But anyway, I'll leave it there, and we'll keep a follow up. Let's follow this up. Okay, awesome. Have a good day, Paula. Bye. Awesome.